one quote that I'd like you to remember or learn from this. So anytime you see the patient with chronic pain of any reason, whether it's a back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, you really have to get down to that, make them realize it's oftentimes, it's not a pain itself that leads to the disability that they experience or the disability that they come to see you for. It's a lot of it comes down to the fear that something, activity may cause the pain or they might further injure their problem. So, I don't think there's a simple answer to the question. It becomes a chicken. By the time patient comes to see you, it becomes a chicken and egg situation. You don't know what comes what, especially in the chronic pain cases. But I think if you kind of remember the quote and always trying to find sort of a fear and that leads to disabilities, and I think that kind of gives a lot of different avenue to start treating the patient.
Follow-up question to that, Dr. Hiroshi.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, on the first question, though modalities may affect pain, as you stated, you indicated that you haven't used them in a while. Why is that? What is your go-to intervention for patients with acute pain? Here in the Philippines, modalities are the first line of defense for pain.
Modalities, are we talking about E-stim and ultrasounds and stuff?
Yes, Dr. Hiroshi.
Okay. Well, I haven't used them for a while because it's just the evidence that supports them is just so poor. Interesting is this. In many of the rehabilitation research that we do, modalities that we use, therapies, techniques that we use, oftentimes we cannot do placebo control studies for quite obvious reasons. We can never sort of blind the patients to manual therapy techniques or exercise therapy. Only time we can do placebo control studies is actually modalities. We can do sham ultrasound, we can do sham electrical stimulation. So when they do placebo control studies, they usually the result is, it doesn't work, or it just works as good as sham or the placebo modalities too. The reason that I mentioned it, I think it's very important because many of the things that we do has probably the placebo effect through the contextual factors, just like discussed. That's OMPT too. There's some researchers trying to come up with a sham OMPT techniques and trying to compare with the real techniques, and oftentimes the result gets sort of a muddled, meaning it's not as effective as we thought. So to answer the question, in the modalities, they actually do have a number of placebo control studies, which really shows it doesn't do as good as sham therapies. So the evidence doesn't support it. And second of all, as I said, I don't want my treatment focus to be on pain, solely on the pain. I think I'd rather use OMPT to ease their anxieties and fear about the movements, and then just trying to get them to move and exercise rather than using the modalities.
Thank you, Dr. Hiroshi. Another question from the audience. How would you deal with patients who already know these fear-invoking jargons, either because their doctor has told them the terms or they Googled it? Can you provide some tips on how to initiate movement or break fear avoidance belief, especially when the referring doctors said that the patient needs to guard, protect back, and may even need surgery? So what is your take on that, Doc?
So the question was if the patient already knows that they are fearful?
Yes, yes. Doc.
Okay. I would say that situation almost never happens to me. The patient never realized they are fearful of moving or they have a fear avoidance until they come to see me. Because most of the medical doctors, they still use a very highly biomedical approach. When the patient see the low back pain, what did they do? Send to the imaging, maybe, right? X-rays, even MRI. Oh, you got a disc herniation. That's what's causing your pain down the leg. Maybe some cases, yes, some cases not, especially when it comes to so-called degenerative disc disease. That's not even a disease, but a lot of patients come with the labels, right? And all those are very fearful thing. If if you're a patient's point of view, some disease is happening in your spine, it's a very fearful thing. And I never met any doctors or anyone who discussed that, don't be fearful, and the fear leads to X, Y, and Z. It's usually my job to do it. But I don't want to generalize it because sometimes therapists do use, certain biomechanical jargons that makes them even fearful, even make them GERD. And also, you also need to think what we do. For example, lumbar stabilization exercises that we love to do. Now, if you use those techniques, regardless of, you are helping them to GERD even more. Okay, so patient feels better by GERDing it because that's sort of a satisfying for their fear. Okay, so I mean, I don't know. I'm answering the question actually, but actually, I guess my simple question is, it usually has to be either us, either me, or the participants in this seminar who actually realize that a lot of disability they experience is due to fear or anxiety.
Thank you, Doc. That means we have to be ready to accept patients as how they were referred to us. Another
so, a lot of time patient comes with a referral diagnosis, right? Whatever, low back pain, sciatica, radiculopathy, pinched nerve, whatever that is. Especially when the case becomes chronic, less likely those biomedical anomalies explains the experience that the patient has. That's something you need to keep eye on. A little bit, it's a lot more than that. And it's our job to find out exactly what is it.
It's our job. Yes, Doc. And the last question, what are the practical ways to effectively use pain science on clinical applications? Do you recommend PTs to study psychology as well?
That's $1 million question. So that discussion's happening in the US, and I'm sure in Europe too. I believe a lot of these things comes from Europe and Australia too. And there's something called psychologically informed practice, as PIP, and that's some US. I forgot, Dr. Bialski. Anyway, it coined the term. So it's basically a cross between psychology and standard physical therapy practice. Basically, I think we need to realize, even though we are physical therapists, a lot of what we do, it falls into psychological or a lot of neurological, sort of psychosocial domain. It really has to be, because you are dealing with a whole experience of a whole person, which is not just only the biological being, right? So yes, I do think we have to have some sort of a psychology training. I think it definitely helps to move forward for the 21st century, I believe.
That are all the questions, Doc Hiroshi. Thank you so much for your time. And
thank you very much for
we would
inviting.
like to award the certificate of appreciation.
Thank you very much.
So, the Philippine Association of Orthopedic Manual Physical Therapists presents this certificate of appreciation to Dr. Hiroshi Kiyota as a resource speaker during the conference entitled PEOM 5th International Conference Game On Orthopedic Manual Physical Therapy Unleashed in 21st Century Musculoskeletal Care, held online via Zoom meeting on November 14, given today, signed by Dr. Lilian Bautista and Mr. Eugene Octaviano. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Hiroshi.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Once again, thank you for that, Dr. Hiroshi Kiyota and Ms. Ellen Bustillo. I would like to remind everyone that the recording of this conference is for PRC purposes only, which means that we are unable to share it to the participants. If you will be posting anything on social media regarding some pictures or insights of this event, kindly use the hashtag #GameOn. Let us now call on Ms. Isabel Sison to introduce our next speaker for the morning.
You. So our next speaker is Dr. Andre Altavas. We all know him as one of the founding fathers of PAYAMT. He is also the president and founder of Physical Therapy Advancement Seminars, as mentioned during our first day last Sunday. He went to Southwestern University in Cebu City for his bachelor's degree, Damon College in New York for his Master's of Science, and to Andrews University in Michigan for his Doctor of Science. He currently serves the NCH healthcare system in Naples, Florida as a PT specialist. He is also a fellow. Sorry about that. He is also a fellow in the American Academy of Orthopedic Manual Physical Therapists. Let us give a round of applause for Dr. Andre Altavas.
Thank you, Isabel. And is my mic, is it clear? Is it loud enough?
Clear and loud.
Yes, it's clear.
Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. I also want to, I guess, introduce my friend here, who's going to assist us during the presentation. His name is Tomas. Okay, let me share my screen. Isabel, could you give me access to share my screen, please?
Okay, Andre, hold on.
Okay, thank you.
Just asking the host for help as well, Andre. Hold on. Sorry.
Okay. And share sound. Okay. Okay. Can you guys see, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. Just let me know. All right, can I start?
Yes, Andre.
Okay, good morning. Good morning, Philippines. I know it's about 9:18 dito sa Florida. I'm actually in Florida. It's 8:20 in the evening of Saturday. Again, thank you for having me in this conference. Again, it's been 5 years since my last PAYAMT presentation. That was back in 2017. When I approached Lily, President Lily, on a potential topic for the webinar, and I suggested the TMJ. So Lily was sort of said, yeah, this is a good topic, and she asked me if I could present a lot, more of the manual techniques, the OMPT techniques of TMJ. So that can be the challenging part, because normally when this is a course that I am sort of passionate in teaching, not that I'm the expert or clinical expert in this region, but for this presentation, I want to, my goal is to provide you and to share with you that what I know of the TMJ as part of a general orthopedic PT practitioner. And I know a lot of PTs here in the United States have specialized in the TMJ so